The silence didn't break gently. It cracked like glass under pressure, because when Tyler Perry finally stopped protecting Meghan Markle, the fallout wasn't loud at first. It was surgical. This wasn't a public interview, wasn't a headline quote, wasn't a smiling denial wrapped in PR polish. This was the kind of leak that only happens when someone is finished pretending, when loyalty expires, when the curtain drops backstage, not on stage. And the whispers coming out of Perry's orbit aren't just unflattering, they are devastating. According to people who've seen what was never meant for cameras, an unofficial account tied to Tyler Perry has been quietly unloading a version of Meghan the public was never supposed to meet. No branding, no victim framing, no inspirational speeches, just a cold, unvarnished portrayal of who she allegedly becomes when the doors close and the staff can't leave the room. And the description repeated again and again is chilling in its consistency. Cruel, dismissive, status-obsessed, and openly hostile toward anyone she perceives as beneath her. This isn't about being difficult. This isn't about high standards. This is about humiliation. People reduced to silence, assistants shaken, service workers talked down to as if they were disposable furniture. The same woman who speaks endlessly about empathy and mental health, Perry's circle claims, could turn around moments later and verbally dismantle the very people paid to support her. Not privately, not discreetly, publicly, eye rolls, sharp tones, cutting remarks that leave no room for misunderstanding. Witnesses describe staff walking away in tears while Meghan remained unmoved, as if emotional wreckage was just collateral damage. And what rattled Hollywood wasn't just the behavior, it was the hypocrisy. Perry is said to have told confidants that Meghan would lecture rooms full of people about compassion and inclusion, then immediately belittle his own staff after the applause faded. The contrast wasn't subtle, it was jarring. Advocacy on stage, intimidation off it, the kind of disconnect that makes even powerful allies uncomfortable because once you notice it, you can't unsee it. But the resentment didn't stop with staff. According to those familiar with the posts, Meghan allegedly fixated obsessively on status. Who was doing better than her? Whose projects were outperforming hers? Why Netflix wasn't pushing her harder? Why doors weren't opening automatically? The tone, insiders say, wasn't reflective or self-critical, it was bitter. Every setback reframed as sabotage, every rejection blamed on conspiracy, bias, or intentional blocking. Never strategy, never miscalculation, never responsibility. One accusation appears repeatedly and has reportedly infuriated Perry in private: Meghan's alleged insistence that her struggles were entirely rooted in her skin color. Perry, a black man who built an empire from nothing, is said to have found this framing manipulative, especially given how she allegedly treated staff members who were themselves people of color. To him, the contradiction was glaring, claiming oppression while exerting power cruelly, weaponizing identity while dismissing those without leverage. And then there's the timing, because this didn't surface randomly. Meghan has gone conspicuously quiet during a period when Tyler Perry himself has been navigating turbulence. No visible support, no solidarity, no public loyalty. People close to Perry say the absence was noticed immediately. For someone who demands unwavering public backing, her silence spoke louder than any statement. It wasn't neutral, it was strategic, and it stung. That silence, according to one source, triggered a realization Perry had avoided for years. Meghan's loyalty, they say, is conditional, transactional, present when useful, absent when inconvenient. Relationships aren't bonds, they're leverage. Support isn't given, it's traded. And when the spotlight shifts away, so does she. That realization, insiders claim, is what finally loosened his tongue. Then came the story people had whispered about for years: the dinner party, high-end venue, elite guest list, the kind of place where mistakes are rare but human. A waitress brings the wrong wine. English isn't her first language. She apologizes, tries to correct it. And according to multiple accounts now allegedly confirmed by Perry's circle, Meghan snaps, loudly, aggressively, demanding how someone so incompetent could be employed there. Witnesses say the energy shifted instantly. Not embarrassment, not irritation, but rage. She reportedly escalated, called for the owner, demanded the waitress be fired on the spot. No attempt to de-escalate, no grace, no empathy. The waitress walked away shaking, in tears, while Meghan continued shouting. What stunned those present wasn't just the outburst, it was the lack of self-awareness. Hollywood notices when a spouse stops appearing, when interview conditions tighten, when a man who once fused his identity to a shared mission starts carving out distance. Those aren't random choices, they're survival instincts. Meanwhile, the irony of Meghan's public messaging grows sharper by the day. She claims to fight for the voiceless, yet the stories now surfacing center on silenced workers, intimidated assistants, crying waitresses, people too powerless to speak while she held all the leverage. These aren't abstract accusations. They're specific, repeated, consistent, and that consistency is what makes them lethal. Because reputation doesn't collapse from one scandal, it collapses from accumulation, from patterns that become undeniable, from allies quietly stepping back instead of stepping in, from the realization realization that defending someone costs more than distancing yourself. That's why Tyler Perry's shift matters so much. He wasn't a casual supporter, he was a shield. He offered protection when others hesitated. He vouched for her character when doubts surfaced. For someone like him to disengage, even unofficially, sends a message louder than any public condemnation. It tells Hollywood the risk calculus has changed, and once that signal goes out, the industry reacts fast. Projects stall, meetings get postponed indefinitely. Phone calls go unanswered, not out of malice, out of self-preservation. Because no one wants to be the next person dragged into a narrative where accountability is optional and blame is infinite. What's left is a woman increasingly isolated, lashing out at imagined enemies while real support evaporates, accusing the world of bullying while leaving a trail of bruised relationships behind her. The tragedy isn't just that she's losing influence, it's that she seems incapable of understanding why. Meghan once positioned herself as the center of a movement, a symbol, a voice. Now she's becoming the center of a storm, one that consumes everything it touches and offers nothing in return. And storms don't get sympathy, they get avoided. Dubai stepping back wasn't about optics. It was about predictability. The UK closing the door wasn't about punishment. It was about exhaustion. Brands moving on wasn't about bias. It was about stability. Hollywood's wariness isn't cruelty. It's pattern recognition. And perhaps the most damning detail of all is how alone she appears to be as this unfolds. No powerful chorus rushing to defend her. No industry-wide rally. Just careful distance, strategic silence, people protecting themselves the same way she always has, because when someone turns every relationship into a transaction, eventually there's nothing left to trade. Meghan Markle built her image on being wronged by the world, but the stories now circulating suggest something far darker. A pattern of wielding power without restraint, of demanding empathy while denying it, of framing herself as persecuted while leaving real damage in her wake. As this year continues, the question isn't whether more stories will emerge. They will. The question is whether anyone will still be standing beside her when they do. Because right now, the answer looks terrifyingly close to no. This was a woman who built a public image around victimhood, now acting as the aggressor without restraint, and that story is resurfacing now for a reason. Because over the past weeks, the rejections have stacked up quietly but unmistakably. Dubai distancing itself, the United Kingdom making it clear there's no welcome mat waiting, brand partnerships collapsing before contracts are signed, invitations drying up, silence replacing attention. In Hollywood, people aren't gossiping anymore. They're connecting dots. The pattern is familiar. Grand speeches, private cruelty, public blame, zero accountability. One executive reportedly described her as emotionally radioactive. Work with her and you inherit her grievances. Question her and you become the villain. Distance yourself and you're accused of persecution. That's why doors aren't slamming. They're simply never opening. And now, even the one person who once defended her without hesitation appears to be pulling back. Prince Harry has not been seen with Meghan in moments where joint appearances were once guaranteed. His recent interviews come with conditions so strict they've raised eyebrows across media circles. One source claims he now refuses to speak unless Meghan's name is completely off limits. That alone is extraordinary. For years, his identity was fused to hers. Now he's actively trying to separate. And when a street interviewer reportedly attempted to ask about Meghan's rumored past, Harry didn't defend. He exploded, demanded cameras off, walked away. To some, that looks like loyalty. To others, exhaustion. Hollywood is watching. Staff stories matter. Patterns matter. How someone treats waiters, assistants, drivers, those moments travel faster than speeches ever will. And the consensus forming around Meghan is brutal, difficult, demanding, unpredictable, quick to accuse, slow to support, resentful of anyone who outpaces her success. That's why Tyler Perry stepping back matters. He gave her shelter, access, credibility. For stories like these to leak from his orbit signals something fundamental has shifted, and this isn't just gossip anymore. It's the beginning of a reputation collapse. One that doesn't come from tabloids, but from allies quietly protecting themselves. What's making insiders uneasy isn't just that people are stepping away, it's how quietly they're doing it. No dramatic fallout, no public feuds, just distance. Calendars suddenly full, emails unanswered, invitations lost. And in Hollywood, silence like that isn't accidental, it's deliberate. It's what happens when someone becomes more risk than reward. Because here's the part Meghan never seemed to calculate. Power doesn't protect bad behavior forever. It only delays the reckoning. And when the protection evaporates, the stories don't trickle out, they surge. Assistants compare notes, executives remember moments they once ignored. Staff members who were warned to stay quiet suddenly realize no one's enforcing the silence anymore. People who once defended Meghan as misunderstood are now using a different word, predictable. The conflicts follow her. Every room eventually turns hostile. Every collaboration ends with scorched earth. And somehow she's always the victim in her own retelling, even when the body count is emotional, professional, and reputational. What's especially telling is how fast the narrative is collapsing without her even realizing it. Meghan keeps fighting imaginary enemies, tabloids, institutions, shadowy forces, while the real damage is happening behind closed doors. Brand executives aren't scared of controversy. They're scared of chaos. They don't want talent that brings grievances into every meeting, that turns logistical questions into moral accusations, that forces entire teams to walk on eggshells. One producer allegedly put it bluntly, working with Meghan means inheriting her wars. You don't just hire her, you absorb her enemies, her resentments, her unresolved battles. And the moment you push back, even gently, you're recast as part of the oppression she claims to be fighting. That's not advocacy, that's emotional hostage-taking. And while Meghan continues framing herself as isolated by cruelty, those closest to Prince Harry are whispering something far more uncomfortable, that he's tired, not angry, not vengeful, worn down. For years, he defended her against family, friends, institutions, the press. He burned bridges with both hands. Now those bridges are gone and she isn't helping him rebuild. She's fighting new enemies instead. Sources say Harry has begun to recognize a pattern he once refused to see. Every alliance ends the same way. Every partnership becomes a battleground. Every disagreement escalates into a moral crisis. And somehow the common denominator is never addressed. That realization doesn't come all at once. It creeps in, it settles. And once it does, it changes everything.